Well, hello again. Speculation is growing about Ross Coulthard's, alien spacecraft that's so large it couldn't be recovered. It's outside of the US, and they had to put a building over it. And there is speculation that this is what's been built over it. Yes, never a dull moment in UFO land. Ross Coulthard, the journalist who interviewed whistleblower and Intel veteran David Grush, who told us nothing at all. Anyway, Ross Coulthard said there's a UFO. It's so large that it's outside of the US, and it only became outside of the US when Congress said that they were going to look into this and they wanted any evidence presented to Arrow within the next 6 months. Suddenly all the evidence has to be outside of the US, so it can't be presented. Funny that, isn't it? Anyway, one of these UFOs apparently was so large that they had to put a building over it. Now, I'd never heard before mentioned that it was actually round. Okay, but people are speculating that it's this. This is a car park. These are cars. This is where it is here. It's actually it's an aircraft navigational beacon. These are the antennas in a circle in the middle here. So this is in South Korea. Why people would think this might be a UFO buried under here is beyond me. Nobody said that the UFO was round, as far as I know. And if a round UFO, alien spacecraft, crashed and it was too big to be moved, would you actually build a flying saucer, an alien flying saucer, a round alien spacecraft crashed? It was so large that they had to put a building over it to hide it. Would you actually put a circular building over a circular building over a round flying saucer to hide it? Seems a bit daft to me. There's a few other questions as well. Of course, I don't believe this for a minute. I think it's complete and utter codswallop, absolute rubbish. A couple of other things to consider. How many people would have noticed something like that? Excuse me, something as large as that crashing. If it's something as big as a football field, which is what Ross Coulthard has claimed, one of these spacecraft is as big as a football field. What happened to the crew? I mean, you'd be talking about something a similar sort of size to the USS Enterprise, from the science fiction series Star Trek. Now, a lot of people, especially the people that sort of love all this stuff, think Star Trek is some sort of documentary. But it's going to have a huge crew. The Enterprise in the series has a crew of 400. We only ever seen half a dozen of them, of course, but so you would have a fairly significant crew on something like this. So what happened to the crew? This would be a significant asset to the alien species. So why haven't the aliens turned up to get it back, to recover it? If an alien spacecraft crashed, certainly another alien spacecraft would turn up to recover the crew, wouldn't they? And I strongly suspect they would make sure they destroyed any physical evidence that couldn't be removed. So if they couldn't... the technology they would need to get here, they'd be able to put something like a force field around the crashed UFO. They'd be able to repair it and fly it away. And if they couldn't do that, they would completely destroy it, so there'd be nothing left for us to analyse. This whole story it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's complete and utter rubbish. And I was watching Coulthard being interviewed the other day. I can't remember who it was now, but they said to him, why do you think Grush brought his story to you rather than to Jeremy Corbell or to George Knapp? And Ross Coulthard said, well, I don't know, he just brought the story to me. Words to that effect. Now, Ross Coulthard knows Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. So he would have been aware that Grush tried to peddle his story to those guys. Yet he never mentioned it when asked that question. Why do you think Grush brought his story to you, Mr. Coulthard, rather than Jeremy Corbell or George Knapp? And apparently he did. Grush tried to peddle the story to Jeremy Corbell and to George Knapp at a Star Trek convention. And even those guys, who are well-known UFO piffle peddlers, didn't want to know anything about it. And that's because Grush has said he's got no first-hand experience of any of this stuff. He's just repeating stories. I think Congress finally getting off their backsides and saying, OK, we want any and all evidence presented to Arrow within 6 months. We want to hear from people that are actually got first-hand experience of this. Come and tell us what you're doing, where you're doing it, who you report to. Let's see if any of this is real, and this is long overdue. And as I've said on previous videos, I think they're going to say, you know, after the 6 month period, they're going to say none of it panned out. It's all science fiction rubbish. No one's working on recovered alien spacecraft. They never have. Okay, so let's just have a look at a couple of other images. Now, this is a car park in South Korea. There's a lot of rumours apparently that this is it. And of course, you put a circular building over a circular alien spacecraft, a flying saucer, in order to hide it, wouldn't you? That makes all sorts of no sense whatsoever. What else do we have here? We got one here. Oh, yeah, I don't believe it. Oh, okay, it's finally loaded. Sorry about this. Okay, so there's a better one there, isn't there? I think that one's a lot better. That's far more convincing, isn't it? I mean, it's even got the little gizmos around the edge here. Now this is a water tank. This is a water tank in Romania. You know, now if you had a crashed alien flying saucer, the best thing you can possibly do is to build something that looks like a flying saucer over the top of it. So you can say, look, no flying saucer here, it's just a water tank. And what else have we got? Oh, we got something else here which I thought was quite interesting. Here we go. Oh, this computer, sorry about this. This computer is ancient and slow. Okay, so this is the American military burying the flying saucer here. Now this is on a remote island in the Pacific. This is quite a good one, I think. This is far more convincing than the South Korea navigational beacon, isn't it? This is Rooney Island in the Pacific Ocean, part of the Marshall Islands, I think, Enewetak, around there. And of course, you know, the American military is certainly burying something here. There's no doubt about it. You know, there's this huge thing here. That's people on the top of it there. Those little dots. See the little black dots on the top there? That's people walking around on the top. And as you can see over here, there's lots of earth-moving machinery. Okay, so hands up everybody that thinks that is a crashed alien flying saucer being buried by the American military. Put your hand down, Jenkins, stupid boy. Now this is in fact the Runit Dome. The dome was placed over a crater created by the Cactus nuclear weapons test in 1958, and they pushed a lot of nuclear waste into the crater and then put a concrete dome over the top. This is on Rooney Island in the Pacific, remote island in the Pacific. I think that's far more convincing, don't you? for a crashed alien spacecraft. What else have we got here? Oh, this is probably a bit less convincing. This is Table Rock. This is another aircraft navigational beacon. I couldn't get an aerial view of that, but it looks circular, doesn't it? If you look down on it, it's going to look circular. But this is in America, in Idaho, I think. And finally, I think we'll go to. Is there anything else on Google Earth? Yeah, we'll go to Outback Australia, and this is Outback Australia. As you can see, you know, there's nothing around for miles and miles and miles. You zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, and you start to see a runway here. So people are flying in and out to this mystery object installation out in the middle of nowhere in the Australian outback. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It starts to take the shape of a big V, doesn't it? There's the coordinates there. So this is right in the middle of nowhere in outback Australia. And you can see it's got it's got a big perimeter fence all the way around it here. There's a dirt airstrip here for flying scientists in and out. Security hut there. There's a gate here to to keep undesirables out of the installation. And I think that there's a lot of people could be convinced by that maybe. But what is it? It's one of the over-the-horizon radar stations in Australia. There's 3 of these. It's part of the JORN system. But that's right in the middle of nowhere. And at first glance, I think the UFO fanboys could be saying, wow, look at that. It's a big V-shaped crashed UFO in the Australian outback. They've just buried it. Put a big red sheet over it. And this is literally, hundreds of kilometres from anywhere. Like almost everything else in Australia. Okay, so just a very quick video. I just thought I'd address this nonsense that I've seen flying around the internet about this this gigantic alien spacecraft that crashed, and it was so big they couldn't move it, so they had to put a building over it. As I said at the beginning of the video, people are speculating that it's that round that round first image that I showed, which is actually a car park around an air navigation beacon in South Korea. And I hadn't heard that this football-sized alien spacecraft was in fact round in shape. There's a couple of new things that have come, that have been put forward since Congress have said, okay, we want to see this stuff. One is, suddenly it's outside of the United States. And suddenly it's round. And of course, if you want to hide a round flying saucer that's crashed that you can't move, you're going to build a round building over it. That just wouldn't be obvious at all, would it? Why wouldn't you build a rectangular building or a star-shaped building? Why would you put a building over it that's exactly the same shape as the object you're trying to hide? If it's a substantial piece of equipment, like this was an alien spacecraft, don't you think the aliens would want it back? What would happen to the crew? The aliens would recover or destroy it. They wouldn't leave it for us to study, reverse engineer, so that we could then go and visit them and potentially destroy them. It's the whole story is way beyond ludicrous, and it's the same for any crashed alien spacecraft story. You know, no alien species is going to come here and crash. It's beyond ludicrous. But the UFO fanboys never explain any of this, do they? As I said in the previous video, if you had something like this and it was an alien spacecraft and it was outside of the US, there'd be a huge money trail to it. All the expenses of people going there, all the equipment that you'd have to take there. You know, these people are going to be missing from the United States for how long on these trips? They're going to be doing a three-month, you know, fly in, fly out type thing to research it. All these people are going to be able to provide. There'll be a money trail for all those travel expenses, for all those accommodation expenses. If any of this is being farmed out to be researched by private aerospace companies, you know, there'll be money going to those aerospace companies to research these particular materials. And this is what Congress are looking for now. They're looking for all this. Is any of this real? Because if it is real, this would be going on. There's going to be money going to this company. There's going to be money going to this company. You know, there's going to be this person involved in this. This person's going to be out of the country. There's going to be a little group of people that are working on this. They're going to be in and out of the States all the time, and they're going to be going to the same destination all the time, and they're going to be claiming expenses, and all this will leave a huge money trail. As I said before, you know, they're not going to find any of this, because none of it is true. And they're saying they think Grush's claims are real and urgent. But they're not saying that his claims about recovered ET spacecraft are real and urgent. They're saying that his claims of being victimised for spreading this nonsense are real and urgent. You know, anybody with an ounce of critical thinking, you know, is going to say, okay, yeah, gigantic alien spacecraft, so large that it couldn't be recovered. It's going to make a hell of a mess when it comes down for a start. So big, they had to put a building over it to hide it. How many people would have been involved in constructing that building? How many security people will be involved? You know, why is there not one still photograph? Why is there not one video clip from a phone? What happened to the crew? Why isn't there footage of aliens trying to rescue their colleagues, and recover or destroy the equipment? Because it'd be surrounded by security people all the time, wouldn't it? Security people don't get paid terribly much. Not people on the ground, anyway. One person could show one clip to 60 Minutes or some such similar current affair program and never ever have to work again. You hear nonsense from Emlyn-Jones, like, you know, well, they could have just been told, you know, you'll never work again if you leak any of this stuff. But of course they wouldn't have to. They wouldn't have to, would they? Because it would be it would be the greatest revelation man has ever known. And it would be worth a fortune, be worth millions and millions, if you could leak a story like this with tangible evidence to support what you were saying. Here's a piece of the flying saucer, or a piece of the alien spacecraft, you know. Here's a video clip. Here's some still photographs. We don't see any of that, do we? I can tell you exactly where it is. If it's so big and they can't move it and there's a building over it, it's still going to be there when all the investigative journalists descend on it, isn't it? when Arrow descend on it, it's going to be there, isn't it? Anybody would be interested in this technology. You know, the Russians would want to go and look at it. The Chinese would want a piece of it. They'd be saying this is for mankind. It's not just for you. And it wouldn't be kept secret either. What would be the point of keeping it secret? Because if the Americans really had one of these, everybody else would not be messing with the Americans, because the Americans, as far as they know, the Americans may have been able to reverse engineer it and would have the technology just to wipe them off the face of the earth without polluting the planet. You know, it might be something like they may have, you know, some sort of super neutron bomb type technology. Well, I can't remember whatever happened to the neutron bomb. Do you remember that? You know, it would just kill everybody in a city, but leave all the buildings untouched. You don't hear anything about the neutron bombs anymore, do you? But there might be an advanced alien version of that. And the Americans say, well, that's what we've got. You know, if you mess with us, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be gone. Well, we'll just walk in and occupy your country. We're not seeing any of that, are we? Supposedly they've been reverse engineering this alien technology since the 50s, since the late 40s. But we're not seeing any of it, are we? We don't see any of that with the wars that have gone on since. You know, Vietnam, Iraq, you know, the Falklands, Afghanistan. We don't see any. We don't see any crazy technology weaponry, do we? We don't see any flying machines that aren't conventional. What would be the point of doing all this reverse engineering on all this alien technology if you don't use it? If you don't show the world you've got it? Complete and utter nonsense. Science fiction hogwash. And wait and see, you know, 6 months' time. That's what they are going to be saying. No evidence of ET visiting, no evidence of ET research programs, reverse engineering programs, analysing ET biology. Never has been, and there isn't now. That's what we'll be hearing in 6 months' time. Whether or not Steve Bassett and Emlyn-Jones will be inconsolable, who knows? But I would bet money on them perpetuating this nonsensical truth embargo rubbish that they've been peddling for years. It's very, very, very easy to keep something secret and hide something when it isn't real, when it doesn't exist. All right, well, as always, if you've struggled through the video all the way to this point, many thanks for watching, and maybe I'll catch you again.